Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. Hi. Welcome to Celebrity Interviews with Paul. I have with me today Bill Halbert, decades-long member of Lutheran Church of the Master. Knowing Bill, he could probably tell us the exact number of decades and days, being a numbers guy. But it is great to have you here, Bill. Welcome to Celebrity Interviews.
Hey, thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it. You know, we actually came not knowing anything about the church, but just trying out, as we moved into town. Lutheran churches, the first Sunday in January 1980. And a young parishioner took us aside and mentioned that we had a lot of plans coming. And by the way, next week was going to be the new pastor. And that was Tom Barbrett.
My predecessor, and he was there for 30 years.
Yes.
How about that?
40 years.
Yep. So we're in the midst of, obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic, the shelter-in-place orders, and the restrictions starting to get lifted and stuff like that. How have the last couple of months in the pandemic been for you? How are you adapting?
It's been interesting because it's the first thing that's obvious is it's really fun to people my age.
Yeah.
78.
Yep.
And so I have, and I have a ton of reading to get caught up on. You buy books over the years, and you never finish them, or you never start them.
Right.
You have the intentions, or you read the last chapter. But I like to go out at least once a day. And I'll wear a mask. And I am surprised at the number of people that don't wear masks. But I really appreciate stores where they have a guy who insists that you wear masks. You walk in Costco. If you don't have a mask, they'll send you over to the service desk, and you get a free mask.
Right. Well, the thing about mask wearing that drives me crazy is the misunderstanding that the mask is for you.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And if we're all followers of Jesus, and Jesus says love God and love your neighbor, then wearing a mask, I think, is one of the most concrete ways you can love your neighbor right now. Certainly one of the most visible, because the mask protects you from sharing, whether COVID with the people you encounter. But
right. So we've been able to stay indoors. We did a quickie trip before everything hit the fan back in March. We actually left March 11th, and it got worse as we were headed for Austin, Texas, where I have a daughter with three grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we got back on the 22nd, the governor, as you know, had imposed a lockdown starting Monday night the 23rd.
Right. Yeah, the world changed pretty abruptly, didn't it? Well, right now I know you're up in your cottage in Long Lake, which is probably the reason for the lag. I'm guessing the internet service up near Traverse City not as robust as down here in Troy.
I gotta believe that.
Yeah, but we'll soldier through. Now, the other thing we want to talk about is kind of dealing with loss in the midst of this. And you've had a couple of significant losses recently. What could you share with us about that?
Yeah, we had three. I overlooked one, Paul, when we talked the other day, back in late February. Dear friends of ours, their daughter, who is Cherry, is the godmother, lost a baby who was only a week old, a preemie.
Yeah.
And my brother, I have a younger brother, he's 2 years younger, lives up here. He was a science teacher in junior high. I guess they're called middle schools now. His lovely wife came down with severe dementia 2 years ago, and then 4 months ago was diagnosed with 4th-stage breast cancer.
Mm.
They tried the basic treatment, but it was an aggressive form, and it didn't take it. So she passed away May 14th. And then a week ago Saturday, this past Saturday, a 60-year friend, a high school friend, wife passed away, heart attack. He couldn't get up in the morning. He's had leg problems. And she was calling 911 and had a heart attack.
Wow.
None of these were COVID-based. But there's an old saying, things happen in threes. So hopefully it's over with. But
yeah. What but how is, so, like, I assume, like, with your sister-in-law, that in normal circumstances, you would have been planning to attend a funeral, and you would have been visiting with your brother, and you'd maybe go to the hospital depending on geography and things like that. What was different now?
But it was fortunate. She was home the last, yeah, she was home. And Terry spent 4 nights right before she died with her, so my brother could get some sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 weeks after she passed, my brother has a son in California and a son in Traverse, and he flew out to spend some time with his son in California, and we did a Zoom. We did a
Okay.
Zoom. That's the first one I've done.
The
I'm
Zoom
sure
funeral.
yeah. Have you done those?
Yeah. I have not done a Zoom funeral yet. No. I have had, I think, 4 now funeral services since COVID-19 and since the orders and things like that. And in those cases, they've all been outside and graveside, and about 10 people total.
Here we had about 60 people.
Okay.
They went to a congregational church in Sutton's Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely Pat, and she officiated. Did a nice job.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, considering that it would have been nice to go in person, obviously, it wasn't all bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. The funerals I've presided at graveside have always kind of left me wishing we could do more for families. And yet at the same time, oftentimes the people that are gathering at funerals, as you said, COVID-19 is fond of people your age. Especially when the deceased is older, they tend to attract an older crowd, and that's kind of the last group of people you want to have gathering at this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
What about the fact that the governor is now allowing, meetings of 50 or more? Does that mean that?
Are they inside or outside?
It's a good point.
It depends. It also depends on where you are in the state, because things are changing. I know that now you can have an outdoor gathering of up to 100, but you have to be wearing masks and having social distancing, at least in the Detroit area, Southeast Michigan, and I know that they opened up stuff up around Traverse earlier because there were fewer cases up there, so things were better. I don't know. I know that we are not allowed to yet have indoor gatherings of up to 50. We're still waiting for that to happen. But there's some trepidation around all those things. And we have to keep watching, it's what we did 2 weeks ago that impacts what things look like today. So,
yeah. Traverse has been very fortunate. When we got up here May 7th, Paul, and they had 19 cases. That's there are nursing homes with 19 on the first floor in Detroit,
Right.
They had just less than 5 deaths. It was astonishing.
Mm-hmm. That is.
Was when the governor lifted the ban, the hordes would come up from Detroit, and the virus would.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. So.
Yeah. Oh. Well, let's see. So what in terms of the other kind of losses, I guess it has been, you've had Zoom funerals, which have been something. Does it feel different than it normally would? Are you doing more or less, or is this
yeah, of course at a cottage you can do a lot of swimming, boating, and stuff like that.
Sure.
Ted came up with 3 grandchildren. He lives in Broomfield, Colorado, just north of Denver, and he came up the 31st. He's out right now. I have an RV, and he's taking it with his family down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But there's a lot going on when you have grandchildren running around.
Nonstop energy, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so youngest son Phil is coming with his 3. He's in San Francisco, and he's coming Sunday.
Okay.
Christina's coming the day before July 4th.
Okay.
So we're gonna have 9 grandchildren here.
So my closing question is always, where do you find joy? But I think I've got the answer. It's in the energy and vitality of the grandchildren that are storming the place, right?
They go from 4 to 16. There's a concentration around 9, 10, 11, 12.
And that's a fun age, because that's old enough that you can really kind of engage them and do stuff with them. and young
Yeah.
enough that they're still kind of they're not just totally addicted to their phones, laying on the couch trying to be left alone as teenagers. So that's a beautiful thing.
And you know,
Beautiful thing.
when they got to eighth grade, as you recall, Paul, is about 8 years old, and they discovered jokes for some reason in the eighth grade. That's Thursday,
Okay.
third grade.
Third grade, yeah.
And and of course they're aware that Grandpa tells jokes, so they
Right.
would call. They have called with jokes. Okay, they're a source of
Okay.
jokes.
Yeah.
Third grade.
Right.
I got the first joke. This is years ago. Ellie's now 16. This is Ted's oldest. Just got her driver's license, by the way. She's 8 years old. She calls and says, "Grandpa, why did the pony cough?" Of course, Grandpa doesn't have a clue.
No, why would a pony cough? Who knows?
Grandpa, he's a little horse.
Now, do you have? I take it. I've heard you have a new joke for us to close with. What's the latest, Bill?
Did you hear? I told it on your Sunday thing, but I'll tell it again. What, did you hear about the guy who was fired? The guy who worked at the calendar factory who got fired?
The guy who worked he was fired from a calendar factory.
Yeah.
Why?
All he did was take a day off. But you know, Paul, my all-time favorite. The beauty of jokes is people forget. So you can tell them they honestly forget. I'm not kidding. Most people will tell you they have a hard time telling jokes.
Sure.
You know, remembering the joke, not you know. So I have told this joke hundreds of times. What kind of bagels do airline pilots eat?
I have no idea what kind of bagels airline pilots eat.
Plain
bagel.
Well, I told you years ago when you first came 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was hysterical then too. You know, I still say, Bill, my favorite part of jokes from you is the joy you get in telling them and hearing them. That's my favorite part. Absolutely, hands down. That makes me laugh and makes me smile. So thank you for that. Yes.
Hey, Terry, you know, she's in heaven. It's a mushroom season up here. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
She's in the mushrooms. I mean, big time.
Yeah, the morels. Yeah.
So I have a mushroom joke. Did you hear?
Okay.
Did you hear about the mushroom that walked into a bar?
A mushroom walked into a bar.
He jumped up on the seat, looked around, bought everybody around the drinks. He is really a fun guy.
We could do this all day. Did you hear about the horse that walked into the bar?
No.
The bartender looked at the horse. The bartender looked at the horse and said, "Why the long face?"
Yeah, right. I've heard that one.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well,
thank you, Bill. Well, we got another one.
You heard about past, present, and future? Walked in a bar.
Did it get tense in there?
It was tense. Hey, you're batting .250. You can play for the Cubs. You got 1 out of 4.
1 out of 4. We're good. Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your joy, and we grieve your losses with you. I'm sure you're not alone in all of that. But I'll hold you in my prayers, and look forward to a future when we can do these, have the kinds of rituals that help us grieve and process in ways that are not connected over the interwebs and so forth. So blessings to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Time in your service.
Okay, bye.